Welcome back. I'm visiting here today with Tad Taube, and welcome to today's show.
Thank you.
So, Tad, you've done a lot throughout your life, but I want to focus a little bit on today more the philanthropic causes that you've been involved with throughout the years, and you received an award, the Commander's Cross Star of the Order of Merit. How did that come about?
It was a direct byproduct of the work we've done in Poland for the last 15 years or so. We, being my philanthropic organization, started working in Poland in about 2002 with the express purpose of trying to breathe a little bit of life into a diminishing Jewish population. I don't have to repeat for most people what happened to the Jews in Poland during the Holocaust. So in the aftermath, and particularly several generations now after the Holocaust, the survivors are diminishing, but there's a new group of Jewish people in Poland, which we refer to as the New Jews, and those are the people that have become aware of their Jewish background, maybe a grandfather or a grandmother or an aunt, and were really afraid to talk about it during the German period and certainly during the Russian or Soviet period. And then after the 1989 revolution, where Poland essentially threw out the communists and became a free democratic republic, people felt that they could discuss things that were otherwise off limits in the prior 50 years. And what that gave us an entree to be involved in various programs in Poland to try to make it easier for those people, which we call the New Jews, to come forward. And interestingly enough, probably today, there are upwards of 40,000 people that we've now identified as part of the new Jewish population. And those people are getting organized. They're joining organizations. They're becoming involved with their synagogues. We have two very active JCCs, one in Warsaw and one in Krakow. And we've been very supportive of the government's effort to resuscitate Jewish life as well. And, we've become well known to the government. Excuse me. And so consequently, a byproduct of that has been a series of awards that I've received from the president of Poland, one of which was the Commander's Cross with oak leaf clusters or whatever they call that. It's actually my second one. And part of it was also the selection of me as the honorary consul for the Republic of Poland in the Bay Area.
So, Tad, recently you were involved with one organization, the Correct Foundation, but you stepped down, and then you're continuing on with philanthropic efforts. But what role did Correct play for what you are currently doing, and have you really had to change anything with respect to
Correct Foundation was a very important component of my philanthropy because, in a sense, I came on as a founding director of the Correct Foundation, and shortly after it was formed, or actually became part of the formation of the foundation in 1980 or 1981 or thereabouts. So it was an education, because in 1980 or 81, none of us that were involved with the Correct Foundation, including Joe Correct, knew much about philanthropy. So what the Correct Foundation did for all of us is it taught us the business of philanthropy. So the more I knew about that business and the more I was actively engaged in promoting it for Correct, I started also two different philanthropic organizations under the Toby banner, which were substantial in terms of their giving and substantial in terms of their corpus. And so when I retired from the Corrett Foundation, or at the point of retirement, I think about for every $2 that I was giving or involved in a gift from the Corrett Foundation, there was probably $1 that I was involved in giving from Toby foundations and philanthropies. So in other words, I already had a major philanthropic thrust at the time that I retired from Corrett.
I'm visiting here today with Tad Taube. He's a philanthropist and a longtime resident here in the Bay Area, helping many, many organizations. And Tad, I need to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after these messages. Since you can't take your wealth with you, spend time with your family. Welcome back. I'm visiting here today with Tad Taube. And Tad, in the first segment, we're talking about your role as a philanthropist. How do you decide which organizations that you'll get involved with? Do you have a defined cause or mission within your your planned giving? Or?
Sure. The process of identifying ideas or organizations or people to support really originates both from the outside and the inside. The inside is I tend to be attracted to organizations that are consistent, with my personal philosophy and goals, things that I really believe in, the ideology of giving, the organizations that correspond to my idea of how philanthropy should be organized. So that's internal. External is just exactly what it means. In other words, I get solicitations from people, hundreds of them actually, from organizations and people, and our job is to try to sort through those and identify those organizations that we want to support. Now, there's an underlying element of that whole process that is very important, and that is we try to only support organizations where we think that there is the ability to identify an impact. In other words, we're not just going to throw money down a rat hole and wonder what's happening to it. We have a very well-defined idea at the onset before we ever even put a penny into any organization as to whether or not our money is going to make a difference and how that's going to manifest itself.
Oftentimes people that are donating to certain causes or charities will come back with, we made a donation, we got behind the cause, but our dollars did not reach where we wanted the dollars to go. They were siphoned off administratively into other pieces. How do you ensure that when you make a donation that your dollars are reaching the cause and the need that you're requiring to change?
Well, I think after the fact, it's not going to happen. In other words, if you give the money and then, you want to take some measures or steps to ensure, as you put it, that your money is going to go where you think it's going to go, that's too late. Those decisions have to be made before a single penny goes out the door. You got to make sure that there is a stream of identifying where the money is going and what it's going to do and how it's going to affect whatever it is that you're trying to impact.
And for substantial donations, will you get involved with a board seat or oversight to behind the organization? Or the question is more directed at doing your advanced planning. How do you communicate the oversight of the funds, or making sure
Well,
that they're reaching them?
yeah, I mean, as I say, it's very much an upfront process. And I want to stress that if you're trying to figure it out after the money's gone, it's too late. But we also do monitor what's going on within the organization, because generally speaking, the larger grants are multiple year grants. So we might make a 5-year grant, let's say, to the University of California at Berkeley, to their anthropology department. And each year, we are evaluating what happened and what was right and what wasn't right and so forth. So we're also making mid-course corrections as we go. And there have been instances where we've cut off the funding because the organization either was not conforming to the grant itself and the conditions of the grant, or they were financially in trouble and hadn't been able to raise the monies from other sources that they claimed that they would be able to raise.
If the charity is outside the borders of the United States, you become involved with them?
Well, we are involved in probably a third of all of our philanthropy now goes to Israel and Poland. So, but it's a very similar process. I mean, we're working with organizations that have good management. We're working with grants that are well-defined up front. We're working with organizations that appear to have the financial wherewithal to complete their missions, and we monitor. And I would say that our results probably comparable to what they would be here in the United States.
I'm visiting here today with Tad Taube, and Tad, I need to take another break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
I love fishing, with my family.
I think it would be easier to use a net.
It was so much fun.
The times when we are together, it makes it all the more worth it.
Having Dad teach them how to cast a fly rod, and
as long as we're doing stuff together, we're having fun.
Some people see a father and a son fishing together, while others see a succession plan.
Welcome back. I'm visiting here today with Tad Taube, and Tad, in the earlier segments, we're talking about being involved with philanthropic causes and how you vet out organizations, ensuring that the dollars get to where they need to go. I imagine that years ago you could have just hung up the shingle and said, I'm retired. Why philanthropy?
Well, I think I answered that off mic, and that is that I'm getting older, and I'm wonderful health, and I'm very active, and I play tennis and work out and do all the good things, try to keep my weight under control. But at some point, I'm not going to be here. And so I'm trying to focus a little bit on what happens at that particular point. And I think, as I told you before, there's 4 things that can happen. Your money can go to the government, which is not exactly a positive outcome from my standpoint. You can screw up your children. That's not favorable. Let somebody else give it away. Or you can give it away yourself. And so the process of giving it away myself is a cumulative process. In other words, it's not only the grants that I'm doing today, it's also the grants that I did yesterday and the day before and the day before that are coming back, for reconsideration. So it keeps me very busy. I'm probably, at this point, I would say I work about 60 hours a week. Most people think that to be my age and working 60 hours a week, you got to be a lunatic. But I enjoy my work, and if anything, it keeps me going. It keeps me young. I love young people. I spend most of my time with people that are far younger than I am, and I'm looking forward to doing this for a long time to come.
Tad, I imagine that once you're involved with an organization, there's a tendency to become dependent on multiple year grants. You're monitoring it. Yeah, but how do you put the tail on the end of the donation? Do you usually give for a certain period of years and say that's it?
No,
or
they're all
what?
different now.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all different. I mean, every grant is a grant unto itself. You know, there's no two identical ways of giving away money. I mentioned multi-year grants because the bigger ones, you know, if we're giving away, let's say, $5 million or more, or even $3 million, we might do that in installments. And we monitor what's going on, you know, constantly with each installment of our gift. And there is a tail at the end of this. You know, we do come to an end, and then we do a very thorough evaluation of what we've done. And, you know, generally speaking, because we're so careful altogether about the way that we go about making our commitments, that we've had very few really what I would call surprises. You know, businessmen hate surprises. I hate them with a passion. I don't like surprises. I mean, you can surprise me at a birthday party, but don't surprise me with a grant that goes sour.
When you're working with organizations outside the U.S., and you mentioned earlier that about a third of your money is moving that direction.
Yeah.
Do you how do you do the monitoring for someone that's remote?
Same way. We monitor exactly the same way. We have offices in 2 cities in Poland, in Krakow and Warsaw. We have an office in Jerusalem, and we monitor just exactly the way as we do here. We have representatives on the ground. They're involved in originating the grant. They're involved in the grant process of determining what the terms of the grant are going to be, and they're involved in the evaluation. Now, I will say that most of the grants that we do overseas are larger, and they're probably larger because I guess partly because it's a little harder because of the distance involved, and secondly because we want to ensure an impact, and in a foreign environment, it's easier to track your money if there's a lot of it in play.
So you're a qualified 501c3 organization. You're Toby Ventures or Toby.
Well, we have actually 3 separate philanthropic organizations that we use that we use for giving money. One is I can give the money directly, and I don't have to have any kind of a federal ID number to do that. We can give the money through Toby Family Foundation, which is a 501c3. We can give the money to Toby Foundation for Jewish Life and Culture, which is a 501c3. Or we have donor advised funds at Stanford, which are significant in amount. And I'm quite certain that Stanford has a 501c3 designation, since they collect billions of dollars in philanthropic contributions.
So the dollars that you're working with, as you place them, essentially you're placing it into other organizations that are qualified 501c3s. In other words, you don't do any operations yourself.
No, of course not. No, we don't do any of the operations. We basically support the operations of other organizations that are organized for this specific purpose.
Tad, when everything's said and done, and you're looking at how you're remembered in life, how do you want people to remember you as the greatest successes that you were able to accomplish?
Well, I have a number of children, and I'd like to be remembered as a good father, certainly. I don't really view the work that I'm doing as a philanthropist as a sort of a flag over my remains. I just want to be thought of as somebody that was well-intentioned, did good things, had a great love of people, and a very great love of democracy. You know, one of the things that drives me here, and this is something that, you know, I'm glad to have the opportunity to mention it. I'm an immigrant, as you know from our prior conversations. This country has been extraordinarily kind to me. I love the United States. You notice I'm wearing a little flag right here. I'm patriotic, and you know, I am disturbed by some of the things I see going on today. You know, the riots and you know, the attempt to not recognize the political process that has gone on in this country for years to have an orderly change of government. You know, we're one of the few countries in the world that has an orderly change of government. I'd also like to be remembered for my patriotism.